What's happening, everybody? Alex McCarthy's Wrestling Daily. Once again, it's the Thursday night edition where the show is 150% Irish, I think. if that's even how we work it out. Yeah, of course, I'm being flanked by Miss Hot Take herself, Stephanie Chase. Steph, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Alex. How are you?
I'm not too bad, thank you very much. I've had a nap today on my lunch, as the pro that I am.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yes. And I didn't even stay up and watch wrestling last night. So I'm just old. But you did stay up. And we are going to get into AEW Dynamite first things first, and then we will get to NXT. Before we do that, once again, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention how great everyone's super chats have been at the moment. We've got 2 hot takes in the chamber tonight, but please do get your hot takes into us, especially when we have Steph Chase in the building, ready to give you a world-class rebuttal. So please make sure you get those into us, and we will do them either end of our show reviews. Of course, speaking of which, we've had, this is our 4th show this week. So if you need to catch up on any of those, you know what to do. The podcast is right there on Apple, Acast, Spotify. They're all there. You can't miss it. You can't avoid it if you tried. So make sure you do catch up as and when you can. And of course, our home, Wrestle2, they're on Twitter, by the way. So you need to go ahead and follow Wrestle2 there. And of course, now that you're here with us, please subscribe to the channel. Without further ado, Steph, let's get into the Wednesday Night Wars, or proverbial wars. Let's start with AEW, because there's a lot that went on last night.
Yeah.
And a lot of varying opinions. I think we should start with the whole Cody thing, the whole segment, right? Mm-hmm. Give us your rundown of what went down with Cody.
Well, Cody came out in a white suit without his TNT title, and he went to give a little speech about what he was going to do next, and that he congratulated Darby, and then he said he wasn't going to be going for a rematch, and then he said that the match that him and Arn are looking towards is avenging his loss against MJF. And then out of nowhere, Jade Cargill appeared in the ring, and he asked her, "Can I help you?" And she just started running him down and telling him that he was not the big man that he thinks he is, and that he had said he was a giant killer, but he's not a giant killer, and that he needs 2 names, but her giant only needs 1 name. And she basically alluded to having a giant. So I was sitting there thinking, who's an unsigned giant that could be coming? Who could we be getting?
Big Cass.
Oh, Lord, no. that would have been an anticlimax. She was hinting that she had a giant. And then before she left, she actually said who the giant was, and it's Shaquille O'Neal. Yeah, I didn't expect that. And then Brandy came out and was basically like, "You're trash talking my man, so now you're my problem." And Brandy ran her down. And then as Brandy turned to leave, Jade patted her on the bum. So Brandy turned around and started beating her. But thank God Jerry Lynn was there to run out and break that one up.
Before I give my thoughts on the thing, we have to do this super chat first from Ryan Brown. "I really need this stream. My best friend got into an accident with a tractor trailer and has been in surgery for hours. I have no idea what's happening and I'm stuck at work. You guys never fail to calm me down. So thank you." Ryan, my man, wish all the best for you and your friend. Our thoughts are obviously with all of you guys at this time. If you need to speak to anyone, I'm always available on Twitter, brother. You can DM me, no problem. Until then, we will give you some subpar wrestling commentary to get you through this anxious wait. So all the best, all the thoughts go to you, Ryan, and your friend. Yeah. So back to the segment.
I have a lot of thoughts.
Yeah. Listen, I said earlier, I actually thought Brandy Rhodes eviscerated Jade on the mic. In terms of a debut, I was like, whoa, that was especially for Brandy, it's more fire than I've come to expect from her, and delivery and all of that kind of stuff. And Twitter is super divided on her promo. They're in particular, I've been getting like a lot of comments basically saying like white people don't really understand the problem with it, which I'm not going to like open up that can of worms because okay. But at the same time, people are like, she's put on an accent, stuff like that. There was a lot of people were like, it's fire. And the other people were like, no, it's completely wrong that they made the two of them go at each other like that. So it's a tricky one though. When you think of who's involved or, the high power people in AEW, you must think that they must have thought it was okay. So I'm not going to elaborate too much on that, but I just thought strictly from a wrestling angle point of view, I thought Brandy delivered a good promo. I thought Jade Cargill looks like, it goes without saying she looks $1 million, right? Like the abs and everything. She is like, she looks tremendous. I don't think she did bad on the mic, but I don't think that's her forte either.
I don't think she did bad at all. I thought she was really, really good. Like I was really knocked back by her and her promo skills. Like this is her first time on national television delivering a huge promo, like a very long, wordy promo to Cody Rhodes, one of the top stars in the company, introducing Shaquille O'Neal. So I thought she really knocked it out of the park. Best promo ever? No, but really good, strong debut that she can build on. Absolutely. I honestly liked the whole segment. I really, really liked this. It was so unexpected. And it's, wow, Shaquille in AEW, that's going to be something,
Yeah.
I how I feel about celebrity involvement in wrestling. I'm not a huge fan of it usually, but at least I know who Shaquille O'Neal is. But I say that, and I didn't know who Pat McAfee was, and he's like the best thing ever to happen to wrestling. So I can't really, make that judgment anymore. But if I just feel like all AEW needs is to get more eyes on it, and if Shaquille O'Neal can bring that, then fantastic.
Yeah, I must say, and I'm a big Lakers fan, so I'm extremely familiar with Shaquille O'Neal. Followed him very closely. I remember they were teasing him and Big Show for so long. I've spoken to Big Show about that before, where he feels like Shaq put the brakes on that, whereas Shaq blames WWE. So I guess we don't really know on that one. But am I that excited about the match of him and Cody? I mean, I'm intrigued. Is probably the more fitting word. Like, what can Shaq do with Cody? Because it's kind of been, I remember back in August this was being spoken about. So it's obviously something that they've been building to, and it's been in the pipeline, and presumably Shaq has been working towards. So that intrigues me, right? Like, he must have been putting the work in for this eventual match. So what are they going to do?
Yeah, Shaq has outright said that he wants to work with Cody, and it totally makes sense from a TNT standpoint to have these two together. It's just, I just can't imagine a match with Shaq in it, or what you could do, because I just don't know how he would fare in a wrestling ring. And I don't think it's going to be like it can't be like a Big Show Floyd situation, because Cody's smaller than Shaq, but he's not that small. And I don't know what they'll do, but I'm excited for it. I really am. I thought it was a cool angle.
Yeah, it's funny though that the Mike Tyson angle, I know that it kind of pivoted to Jericho, but that also involved Cody with the TNT title and stuff. So interesting that they're going in that direction. Rian Nocta says, can Shaq slam dunk Cody's toe off? I don't think that's humanly possible, Rian.
He may try.
Yeah, and Cody might even thank him. Who knows? Who knows on that?
Randy definitely will.
Yeah, yeah, she definitely did not like that. What else have we got here? CM Chris in the building once again. How you doing, my friend? Good evening, Alex and Stephanie. Dynamite was a lot of fun. Omega promo, Bunker House match, main event, and Pac returning. Oh my God. Yes, well, you've made my job a lot easier for me, CM Chris, because I'm just going to hit those points straight to Steph.
Dynamite was a lot of fun. That Bunker House match was really, really great. It was, they're really not staying away from having the blood and guts in TNT, are they? But
no.
Dustin continues to impress in this stage of his career, and yeah, that was a really good match. The main event I loved. Penta and Phoenix. Wow.
Yeah.
These two are like the Gallagher brothers of wrestling. When they're on the same page, they can make beautiful music together. And then when they're not on the same page, they literally want to kill each other. And the way they went after each other with like taking each other's masks off and stuff, it was crazy. And then it's all being orchestrated by Eddie Kingston, who is determined to split up this family. It's very odd because he united Ali and the Bunny and the Blade, but he wants to break up the two brothers, and it looks like he's succeeded. And then there we go. Pac is back. He got out of the UK. Good for you, Pac.
Yeah, lucky you, Pac. Lucky
you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about seeing Pac again. I do. I mean, the early indications are babyface, right? I guess.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I feel like with Kingston, it's hard to tell, because if they have more of a crowd, they'll take to Kingston so much. And right now he was doing all this stuff last night, like telling the crowd to shut up and basically like not to cheer him. And they've got such a small crowd that can work. He can silence them. But Kingston's an eventual huge babyface. But Pac versus Kingston, I'm excited about.
I think he's a big babyface too. Kingston, that is. I think Pac does his best work as a heel. You know, moving along from, all of that. A mega promo you didn't touch on.
Yeah, I thought the Omega promo was good. They touched on the match that they had before. That was an unsanctioned match. And it's been announced for December 2nd. So I thought we were going to have to wait till Revolution in February, but it looks like they're planning a big show on December 2nd. So that's really exciting. That's only like 3 weeks away.
Yeah. I wonder if that will be the first part, and then leading into the new year, this feud will build. Or do you think they would put it on Omega on December 2nd?
I think they're going to put it on Omega. And I have to stop saying about Jon Moxley defending this United States title in New Japan, but man has got to defend his title. But that aside, I think they're going to put it on Omega and build to something else at Revolution. I don't know who. I hope it's not Hangman, because that needs to build out more. Maybe even a rematch at Revolution with Moxley and Omega. But I think Kenny's winning the title, and he's going to win it on TV.
Do we think Moxley's going to be at Wrestle Kingdom then?
Okay, the problem is the isolation period. I sat for quite a while the other day thinking, would Renee Young give up her Christmas?
Yeah.
Does she seem like the type of woman that would give up her Christmas?
Who wouldn't cook at Christmas? Come on now.
Well, you know what? I think she'd do it. I think she would think, like, you know, they're young, they've got no kids. Let's have an adventure. Let's spend Christmas quarantining in Japan so that Jon Moxley can defend his US championship. So I'm hopeful for Wrestle Kingdom, but the window is definitely closing.
Absolutely. Now, Steph, I know you don't always catch the show when you're not on it, or you're a busy woman, but this week, my co-hosts have been super chatted into doing some promos, right? And they were some impressions. Now, Matty the Hot Scott wants Steph to do your best in the world impression. He wants you to introduce Shane McMahon, best in the world.
Oh my gosh. Greg
Hamilton style. The man has paid his money, Steph.
Do I get the money?
I mean, no, but nor do I. So,
okay, give me a second.
Get into character. Do we got to do?
I am Greg Hamilton. I am Greg Hamilton. Okay, I'm ready. And also, if I get evicted for noise over this, Alex, I expect you to kick out your children and let me move into your house.
Absolutely. I will grant you that. Yes.
Thank you. The best in the world, Shane McMahon.
Yeah. I would argue that's the best one yet. I don't know what the comments are going to say about this, but I would argue that was the best, certainly the best held world I've heard this week.
Thank you.
Kudos. You've done well. Louis is so salty, Steph, isn't he?
Louis. Bye, Louis. Okay, Louis is one of those guys that just like he's like keeps coming back. He stays at work when it's not even his time. He just can't get away. Get a life, Louis.
Exactly. And look at the other side of this. There you go.
I much prefer CM Chris to Louis.
Yeah. Oh. And Aquil wants you to get paid. There you go. Look, everyone is coming in now and saying that Steph is as killed. Look, better than Nuggets. Tyler says. I mean, listen. Oh, Rumblebee wants a shot on Louis. I don't know if we want that. She might bury him so deep it'll be very hard to have him back on the show.
Yeah. Oh, poor Louis. It's just when it's not his day, he just won't leave us alone.
Louis says, I will personally give Steph £2 if she never does it again. He's braver than I am. For anyone watching this, I wouldn't be shooting on Steph like this. You're asking for trouble.
£2. I don't need £2, Louis. Thank you very much. You clearly need the money because you can't stop working.
That's about as much as his parents give him pocket money, I will assume.
I would say so.
Matty says, impressive, Steph. Alex, you're tomorrow. Get prepared. I wish I'd gone earlier in the week before Steph's. I'm not gonna lie. I wish I'd been put up to bat first now. But I'll give it my best shot. You pay your money, you get what you get on this show, no doubt. Steph, before we wrap up AEW, I think we should talk a little bit about what Cody Rhodes has been saying regarding the chair shot that he suffered from Sean Spears at Fyter Fest last year. So for anybody that has not seen it, he did the unrestricted AEW podcast, and he was just going into depth about how they wanted to gimmick the chair. That was the idea. They were going to sand it down so that it was very much like, in WWE with the trash cans, that kind of effect. But he goes, they didn't have anyone who knew how to do that. So they actually let someone who had saved Jon Moxley from a fan a few months earlier, they let him have a stab at it, essentially. Right. And then obviously it didn't work out because Cody told Sean to swing for the fences. So instead of the patented straight forward shot, he came in like that, as we all know. And of course, the bar catches Cody on top of the head, splits him open. We all know the rest. In terms of what he gave out in the chat on the podcast, he said that Moxley and Tony Khan ripped into Sean Spears backstage, tore into him. I'm very Moxley to hear that I was a bit like,
I'm really surprised at Moxley. Did the crazy stuff he's done. I'm surprised, but okay. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, and Cody said the same. He was like Jon Moxley either wants to talk your ears off or he just says 2 words to you all day. He goes, there's no in between. But yeah, and he was saying that there's some confusion as well because Cody had said no matter what, make sure you tell everyone whatever the outcome or wherever, we will tell them that it was a gimmick chair. And then there was some confusion because in the scrum afterwards, the Young Bucks and Kenny and people like that, they didn't know. They weren't privy to what was going on in Cody's match, right? So it's a people are kind of getting on Cody's back now because he said that he wanted to take it for the boys in the back, basically. He thinks if Captain America, just as to paraphrase, can wield a shield and hit people on the head on set, then why can't they do violence like that in wrestling, as long as it's done safely? So I actually kind of understand the point he's trying to make, right? Because there's a lot of violence in wrestling that they do safely. And, as long as it looks like it's violent, but actually isn't, cool. I think knowing what we know now about concussions and the fact they met with Chris Nowinski just last week about this, I don't know if it was great timing to give this story. And I think, I don't know about you, Steph. I personally miss headshots from chairs, visually. Yeah. It was amazing. Back in the day when that used to happen, it was the sound, it was just so. And I hate the whole. And I'm sure people in the comments will have thoughts about this. I hate the setup where somebody attacks you with a chair and immediately you go, oh, axe handle, and then you get hit in the stomach. And you're like, oh, and you get hit in the back, and it's like you're just watching that 10 seconds play out every time. It's just like, oh, it's the same as when they do a dive to the outside, and this is any promotion, and they're huddling on the outside, like, are you okay, man? You okay? And then the person starts running in the ring, and you're like, oh, come on, like the same setup every time. So I wish. Again, I miss it, but knowing what we know now, I understand why it doesn't happen. You know what I mean? Do you think Cody's words have been jumped on a little bit, or is he way off?
I don't think he's way off. I can understand why he wanted to do it. You know, Cody's so old school. He just needs to find a safer way to do this sort of stuff. You know, and we know so much more about concussions than we did years ago that we have to be more careful. I mean, when you look back at stuff like Rock hitting Mankind with a chair on the head over and over again, like it does make for uncomfortable viewing now.
Yeah.
So there's a middle ground that has to be found.
Sorry, I've just seen the Zornies with a super chat saying it's Noug, like the French accent, not nugget. Love us daily. Yeah. Nougat. All right. If that's how they say it in France, I'm all for it. No worries. So yeah, I think it's just. I think people are really jumping on him, and I get it because it's sensitive to the timing and stuff. And I don't think the comparisons he made were that well worded. But I honestly think as well that he's well aware. Like, it's not as if he's taking concussions for granted. He's well aware. He says that he learned the lessons from that day. You know, people are kind of only really reading the part that they want to. You know, so it's a lesson learned. And we haven't seen the headshot since in AEW, which probably speaks more, you know, actions louder than words and all of that stuff.
Yeah, and, you know, they are a new company and it is all learning, because you could say, I mean, we could take a lot of money, Alex, and just go start up our own wrestling company and we would have all this crazy stuff that we want to do. But you do have to learn what is possible and what is safe and what is right. And sometimes it takes something not working out or something going wrong or something bad to, you know, the important thing is to learn those lessons and to do better next time.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I've said this with Steph on the show. Like, the way they handled Alex Reynolds was not good. And then now they have someone at ringside in these matches to, you know, which they probably should have had anyway. But the point is that they have it now, and Tony Khan has acted. And the same with Matt Hardy at the event. You know, revisiting that spot in a safe, recorded environment, I guess, is like a lot of people were kind of put out by that, but I actually think is, you know, if they've learned their lessons and they're kind of, I don't know, almost proven a point. For me, as long as they make progress, because people do forget that they're a new company, but there are a lot of experienced heads there too. So hopefully, safety first. We always say that, right? CM Chris tells me that England are 1-up. Thank you, CM Chris. Steph doesn't care. 50% of me cares greatly, Steph. All right. So there you go. Listen, we should move on to NXT then. We'll have our final thoughts on AEW when we compare the two at the end. But just a reminder, guys, great super chats thus far. Make sure you hit us up, and we will read them in between or at the end of NXT. So, Steph, there's only one place to start here, and that is Johnny Gargano and the goddamn rigged wheel that came back to bite him.
I thought this was terrible.
Hang on. Matthew McCoskey, we will. Trust me, we will. Bear with us. There's segments to get through here, brother. All right? Don't worry. We will get there. Go ahead, Steph.
Okay. Johnny Gargano and the rigged wheel. Firstly, when Johnny Gargano came out with his rigged wheel, I was really into it. And I thought this was pretty good. Then we have the title change. With Leon Ruff, and my gosh, if you are going to put a title on someone, do not treat them like that, because he looked like such an idiot. Like, the belt falling off him thing to me just made him look like such a geek. And NXT have a history of taking their titles seriously, more seriously than the main roster, and this just turned into it was just bad. What do you think it's going to do for Leon Ruff? I think absolutely nothing. And I mean, the highlight of it was Damian Priest giving him car keys. But I just think that there was a way to have done this that was maybe a bit less comedic. And then I hated Gargano banging on Regal's door afterwards in his like silly power couple animated T-shirt. It's just all. I did not enjoy this. That might be an unpopular opinion.
I'm going to have a contrary opinion. I actually enjoy Gargano. He's grown on me as a heel. I said this on Twitter earlier. I feel when the Gargano way started, I was a bit like, ugh. Like, it was such a departure. Mm-hmm. And I get that they were trying new stuff, like when they're at the dinner table and they'd have like those weird fuzzy thoughts, and I was like, okay, this isn't really doing it for me. Yeah. But I found Gargano entertaining as the weeks have gone on, and the last few, I do think he's grown into it. Love Regal, so the interaction worked for me. The Leon Ruff thing, I mean, I didn't look at the title falling down and think, oh, what the hell is this? You know, like, I guess it's just a bit of fun. But I mean, Leon Ruff, has he really been presented as someone serious? Do you know what I mean?
No, so then why use him in a spot that you could have used to make a guy?
I mean, I guess they think they are trying to make him, but it depends where they go from now. But then, as you just said, that the first steps towards that, it seems like Leon Ruff is in for a, no pun intended, rough time. I don't know. I don't think I'm interested. Let's put it that way.
I would have rather them. The idea being, because the idea also seemed to be that Gargano, who cannot win a match, had rigged a wheel, so he got a weak opponent, basically. I would have rather him rig the wheel to get someone who isn't like fully, there yet. Like, it just came into my head, like a Jake Atlas or someone, give him that big shot, he gets the title and can actually do something with it. Other than it's just NXT, putting their title into this joke scenario, it just does not work for me. I expect more from you, NXT.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't mind it. I think that there is room for comedy and surprises like there was last night. I get what you're saying. And would I have preferred it on maybe like a Cameron Grimes? Probably. But
Cameron Grimes would have been comedy too.
Yeah, but I mean, he's there though. His in-ring work is there, and I'm saying that so is Leon Ruff. I just think, I guess I understand what you're saying. I just don't mind it. I just feel like I'll see where it plays out, and the story is more about Gargano than Ruff in the long term, I would assume. But we'll have to see how that plays out. We've got a couple of super chats here that I am going to dive into. Matthew McCoskey, before we get back to your other one, Matthew, Balor return and the title match next week is awesome. If I'm being honest, Balor segment will end with Cross returning. What do you think? You'd expect so, wouldn't you, Steph?
Yes, I'd expect so. If they're both, physically fit and able, and then see where we go. Like, how quickly would Cross get that title back? Because Balor doesn't have much luck with titles either.
No. I mean, presumably, though, he really is only just holding it up to give it back to him.
Yeah, but, I mean, per Balor hasn't had the best run. So I know he, lucked into this position. But he then, we haven't seen him for a couple of weeks either. So it's all just unfortunate for everyone. Yeah.
Matthew also says, just pivoting back to AEW, after Omega wins, who does he face until the next few months and at Revolution? Obviously, Paige is the natural direction down the line, but who do you think his immediate opponent would be, Steph?
Ooh, that's tough.
You did kind of say earlier that and Moxley is the kind of character who wouldn't just go away.
Yeah. Maybe keep him with Moxley or try Pac. Because a Pac would be money.
And of course, they've got history with those matchups, that we would like to see again. They could play into. Injection 2K says, honestly, Johnny doesn't work as a heel. I hear you. I didn't really feel that way. I agreed with you until very recently. I'm finding him more entertaining now, which is probably not actually the goal of a heel. Mm-hmm. So I take your point, and I prefer him as a babyface, but I do think he's growing. But I think a lot of people do agree with that take, Steph.
Yeah. I don't actually mind him as a heel that much. I think Candice is better at it than Johnny, but he's not as good as it as, say, like Bayley, like a close example of how she, transformed into a heel, but maybe Gargano just needs a bit more time with it.
Tyler, I'm assuming he's talking about Leon Ruff here. It's like Jack the Jobber, shout out to Cultaholic, winning a title. Hi, by the way. Hi, Tyler.
Hi, I like your take.
Yeah. No, it's not like Jack the Jobber. Come on now. Let's be fucking let's be realistic. Let's not totally crap on Leon Ruff here just because the belt fell from his waist.
But also tell me why you have Jake Atlas and Santos Escobar in a cruiserweight match. Two guys that are look 3 times the size of Leon Ruff, who they decided to put the North American title on. I was watching that going, I'm so fed up with cruiserweight divisions and how they work this stuff out. If you're putting Jake Atlas in as a cruiserweight and Leon Ruff's getting the North American title, you should just scrap the cruiserweight division completely.
Steph, what did you think of Toni Storm and Candice LeRae?
I thought that was pretty good. I have no real investment in Toni Storm, but she's only been back for a while. I think Candice is pretty great. And I think that the Shotzi thing last week, I'm still a little confused. She did explain why the tank means so much to her, but I still feel like, well, why does it mean that much to you? I'm kind of wondering what they're leading to with Candice and Shotzi, whether it'll be some kind of cinematic match or something where they can play, into what Candice did with the tank. Maybe a first real women's cinematic match would be pretty cool. But Toni Storm, because of the Candice and Shotzi thing, Toni just kind of seemed like the third wheel and stuff. And then they unmasked Indy Hartwell. Who saw that coming?
I mean, what do you think that means for Indy? Do you think there's big plans for her afoot, or?
Absolutely not.
No.
I think it means that she's just going to be a third wheel in Johnny and Candice segments. She's just going to be this fangirl of the couple that helps them out all the time.
Interesting. And by interesting, I mean maybe not.
No.
Akil says McCarthy watches football, and I bring this up because he said interesting in SpongeBob quote. Hey, I used to play football at a good level. I used to get paid to play football. Let's not diminish my football association. Thank you very much. Sticking with NXT, I guess it's hard to say in terms of the direction of men up the card. But I ask this because Dexter Lumis and Tim Thatcher are two guys who, at one point, kind of early in their NXT careers, looked like they had a high trajectory. It was Tim Thatcher got rid of Matt Riddle, which at the time was a big accomplishment. And of course, you look at Dexter, he was right in there with Undisputed Era, and he was menacing. And then he had the injury, which kind of set him back a bit. What do you make of these two guys? Are they pushing any buttons at the moment? And did the match do anything for either of them?
I have to go off on Dexter Lumis.
Oh!
He is terrible. This is a terrible, terrible character. I spent this whole match wondering what Dexter Lumis would look like and the impression he'd give off if you just met him in Tesco, whether he's able to actually, come across as a normal human being. It is an awful character. He's not good in the ring, and then you put him against Timothy Thatcher, who's meant to be the most serious of all serious wrestlers. Poor Timothy Thatcher is reduced to wrestling Dexter Lumis. It was so dumb. It was it was a serious athlete taking on some kind of stupid Halloween character. It was terrible. And then the ending, Cameron Grimes putting a bag over his head so he couldn't see his crazy eyes. Wow, congrats. Dexter Lumis couldn't get the bag off his head, and at one point sat down on a chair just to be beaten up more. It was awful. This match segment, everything just dragged down the show for me. Terrible.
Before I answer that, Christopher Jaska says, is this just going to be WWE stuff? We literally spent the first 25 minutes of the show.
If we are doing AEW, it's when you get into NXT.
And we literally answered a super chat on Omega. Come on. There we go. He knows. Just to let you know, with this show, we'll always cover both shows because that's the whole, that's what Steph does for us. That's why we've brought in the big guns, guys. So rest assured, if you missed it, you can always go back and catch it later on in the show. So yeah, I mean,
I went in pretty hard there. So.
Yeah. I mean, I don't love the character Dexter Lumis. I think the man has potential, but the way this character moves, and I mean that from an in-ring standpoint, I do think he's an interesting look, size, the way he moves. But yeah, the character, does it resonate with me? Not really. And I agree with you. I don't think the segment really helped anybody that was involved. But there you go. What about the Kings of NXT, which we're just going to call on this show the Kings? I think we agreed, Steph, didn't we? Yeah. Once again, trying to build up that team pretty nicely. Maverick and Killian Dane kind of getting involved. But McAfee doing what McAfee does, helping his team to retain the titles. And yeah, the Kings seem to be remaining strong.
This was so good. This 100% saved the show for me. Pat McAfee is the best. And he delivered such a good promo at the beginning of the match, like to make people really hate him, talking about flying in his private plane, the plane almost going down, but and Pete Dunne, by the way, had a very, very heavy fake tan going on, but on the commentary.
Well, that's what happens when you get ripped, Steph. You need to tan to show it off.
What was so weird was in the commentary, they focused on either Birch or Lorcan's tan, and I just thought, are they doing that to make Pete Dunne feel better? Because he's totally like wood stained out there, it's unbelievable. But
this is what the people come here for, Steph. This is the content.
Also, Pat McAfee's outfit, he was wearing like a short sleeved polo neck thing. It was amazing, and he was so good on commentary. When I watch him, I feel like he's not only not being scripted, but he just tells Triple H, Sean, whoever, to just get out of the room, and he just works it all out himself, because there's nothing about him that feels WWE. There's nothing about him that feels NXT. He's fantastic. Birch and Lorcan, this is the best thing that's ever happened to them. It might be the best thing that's ever happened to Pete Dunne as well.
Yeah. I'm fully in on the Kings. I do think they've got massive potential. McAfee is the perfect frontman for a stable, the perfect frontman. So, yeah, very, very happy with that. We've got a few super chats to get through here. They've come flooding in. Injection 2K, the first of two, says, I literally just got done watching NXT like 5 minutes ago, and apart from the women's stuff, I got bored low key. He goes on to say, I think at the moment, the women's stuff is way more entertaining than the men's stuff. I'm sorry, but that's my honest opinion about NXT at the moment. You shouldn't be sorry. Yeah, I agree. I think I've said for a long time, I feel that NXT, that's their strongest suit by a mile. We were talking about this last night, right? Anyone on the show, one of the hot takes was that Impact's women's division was the best or rivaled NXT's. And I disagree. I think NXT have the deepest, most stacked, talented women in the world. And the fact that it's a revolving door and WWE comes in and pinches a couple of them every now and again, like this year, Mia Yim and Bianca Belair obviously spring to mind. And the fact that it is still so deep and so talented. Yeah, clearly it's the strongest. I think the men have been trying to build people for a while now, and I'm not sure that it's working out for them.
I think I said here last week that NXT, the best thing they can do is focus on the women. If they want to take on Dynamite, that's their strongest suit, and that's what they should be focusing on. If you look at, Candice, Shotzi, Tony, what they're doing with Xylee, which is intriguing, to say the least. Like, the women are the best thing about NXT, and I think what this show last night lacked was the women. If you were to take out Dexter Lumis, that whole match, and put in another women's match, I think I would have rated the show much higher.
Give me Casey Catanzaro doing some in-ring stuff. Give me that. I'd much rather watch that than what transpired in that segment. Tyler Woodward says, coming off my hot take last night, you convinced me that Gable could be a world champion. I don't know if I was trying to, but I'm glad that I did, Tyler. Also, Penta and Ray was brutal. Pac versus Eddie in a custody ladder match for Revolution. And last super chat until payday for me. Well, Tyler, we really do appreciate you and your hard-earned money, my friend. Thank you very, very much. Where to start with that? I mean, first of all, we'll ask Steph on her thoughts on Chad Gable.
I think Chad Gable is great. It's such a sad story. I think Chad Gable could be a future world champion, but it ain't going to happen in WWE. He could be in AEW. He could be in Impact. He could be in Ring of Honor. He could be in New Japan. He could be anywhere but in WWE, who have just pegged him so badly. Such a talented guy, total waste.
I've said this many times. In any other promotion, if he was given that top spot, he would knock it out the park. I'm totally convinced of that. Penta Ray, of course, was. Yeah, of course it was, man. Like we've already touched on what a great match that was, without going into too greater detail. But their chemistry is just like forever. You could put them together anytime, anywhere, and it's going to be great, isn't it? Pac and Eddie. I mean, I think that is the direction. Is it a custody ladder match though?
I think it's going to be something brutal, whatever they do. I think there will be some kind of stipulation. It'll be no DQ at least, but whether it's like Penta and Phoenix on a pole or a custody match, I'm not sure.
I think that's the thing with Kingston and Moxley. Like every pay-per-view match you get from them is essentially going to be brutal. Like, they're pretty much.
I think that's how Kingston works best. Kingston's not the best wrestler of all time, but he's got the talking and he's good at emoting in the ring. And when he can do more like violent, hardcore matches, I think that's where he really shines.
I've got two great super chats here, but the first one goes off the back of what was just said. In reality, Matthew McCoskey says, where do they go with the Pac and Eddie stuff? I know we've just briefly touched on it there, Steph, but what would be the final direction for you?
Well, Eddie has obviously been trying to split up Penta and Phoenix, and it looks like it's worked because of how brutally they went after each other. So I think that it will be a kind of a faction split. So Pac will get one, Eddie gets one, and then the rest of the faction will split as well because it's quite big. So I'm not sure what would happen with Butcher and the Blade, but it seems like Eddie, as the leader, has been going around and planting little seeds to turn people against each other. And then Pac will come in and give the disenfranchised people a new home with him. And it's going to end up in some kind of great like 6-man tag or something.
Yeah, that probably sounds about right. Before we tie a bow on NXT, Matthew McCoskey again says, report says they are high on Indy. This is in reference to us earlier saying, do they have plans for her? I can imagine that they are. I mean, we're not saying she doesn't have the talent or the skill set, but I think Steph's quite right. Her position in the story at the moment says that she probably isn't the center story.
I would put money on if they're going to do anything with her, they have Candice think that Indy fancies Johnny or some kind of affair angle will happen within that.
Now, I've got someone who I think is just trying to antagonize Steph here. Mayor of Painesville, Dan, he says, absolutely incredible match of Lumis and Thatcher. I loved every second of it. Absolute brilliance. Once in a lifetime talent. Loomis is on fire right now.
Once in a lifetime, not my lifetime, Dan. Loomis should be set on fire and just thrown out of NXT.
I can't condone.
My advice to Dan is to go watch some good wrestling, please.
Well, Dan also says another thing on Lumis. He is something different. Not everyone can be your high work rate super wrestler. Lumis had a technical masterpiece with Thatcher. Now, that leads me to believe that you're actually being serious.
It's unfortunate because I was going to commend him for, being funny and putting in that chat, but my God, like no, a technical masterpiece. Are you kidding me? Can you think of Thatcher working with someone like a Roderick Strong or a Kyle O'Reilly and actually being able to show what a good wrestler he is rather than working with this walking gimmick? Just no.
Yeah, I'm sorry, he wasn't on fire. The match wasn't amazing.
I think Dexter Lumis is unsubscribed at this point.
I do think what I will give Dan for his hard-earned money, in my opinion, I do think Lumis is different, and I agree with you that not everyone can be the super high rate wrestler. I agree with that. There is room for different things
absolutely.
on the show. I just don't know if Lumis is... I felt better about him when he was involved with the Undisputed Era months back. I really feel like he's lost a lot of momentum, but that could just be me.
Yeah.
But there you have it. We do have some other ones banging on here. George Jamin, good friend of the show. My good friend George.
Ooh.
Welcome. Who's going to challenge Roman next? I mean, looks like Daniel Bryan, which I'm perfectly okay with, just because the match will be good.
Yeah.
They're just going to buy time until the big match at Mania, which will or won't be The Rock. But they have options, with Roman. You could still tell that story with Seth Rollins, I think, down the line. I don't know if that's going to be anytime soon. I don't think it will. But Daniel Bryan is probably what it looks like, right?
Yeah, it looks like Daniel Bryan. And I think that's a good way to go. I think the more that Roman can beat up people that are sympathetic to the fans, the more that it will keep him looking like a dominant heel, because he's so good at it that you want to cheer for him. So the more he can go after someone that you also really like is the best way to really make us now not cheer for Roman.
Just because Tempest has dropped in the chat, he does reaffirm that Danny is 100% serious. We have to say congratulations, Tempest, on your Quizzlemania victory last night, by a country mile at that. And I did very much enjoy your promo video where you were getting chopped half to death. So thank you. And congratulations again to WrestleTalk's very own fact checker, Tempest. I think, God, there's only 30 minutes to the end of the show, but we should probably do a hot take.
Okay, go for it.
A little bit of a hot take for you. AEW, as I already mentioned it probably like last week, that they do need to sort out their women's division. But if they was to build it with maybe unifying the NWA with the AEW women's title, do you think that might help bring some more eyes and less criticism on the AEW's roster, especially with the booking being so bad? Cheers, guys. I'm a good egg. Too sweet.
A good egg you are. A very good egg you are, Tyler, my friend. Yeah, I don't know if it will bring more eyes, like directly, that partnership, but I think just the acquisition, for want of a better term, of more talent will help. Steph?
I think that unifying them isn't going to work, but I think that the NWA title gives us some really good matches, but at the same time, what AEW needs to do is focus on their own women's division, and maybe having this at the NWA title is a good little distraction that we can have to get great women's matches while they sort out the women's division and get in more talent and really try and figure out what they're doing and what they're building to with it.
I've said this before about AEW, and I really feel like, they could have done better, for sure they could have done better, but at the same time, I love Britt Baker. I think Chris Statlander has a lot of talent. I think Yuka Sakazaki, I'm so high on her, she's got charisma out the eyeballs. These are all talents that they can't use, and haven't been able to use for long stretches of time. You take any, they're probably three of the top, I don't even know what the number would be, 6 or 7 that they have at their disposal. You take that out of any division in any company, they will feel it. The same way NXT have felt injuries this year. So I'm not making excuses for them, because at the end of the day, I do think they should have crafted more, not just better, more stories for women. But you can't totally just say that they've fumbled the ball completely, because a lot of it, they have been dealt some bad cards, Steph, I would say.
Yeah, they have. For a new company, they were dealt really hard cards, because any other company that was more established, like if it happened to WWE that they couldn't get international talent that they were using in, they'd be absolutely fine. But AEW was in that building process. So I feel bad judging them, but I think the best thing they could have done was make this NWA partnership and bring in the NWA title.
I do think when Statlander finally returns from the ACL, as long as they explain to me why she's a bit of an alien, I will get behind it. But in the ring, she's very talented. John McNeil, he's turned up on our super chats to say Rock turns heel at Mania and acknowledges Roman. John, I don't know if you know how much of a big Rock fan I am, but you're
Tell
saying,
us, Alex.
Yeah. I never speak about it, Steph. So who would know? Yeah, I don't know, man. Like I would, I think if that match does happen, and I don't know if it does, I was more confident in it when it was at California.
Yeah.
If it did, The Rock is like 1,000% putting him over, unless there is some sort of longer story where he eventually puts him over. But I assume it would just be the one and done. The Rock would put him over. And whether he acknowledges him or not, I mean, there's no need for The Rock to turn heel because you're probably never going to see him again for like however long. But I love heel Rock. I always have. Corporate Rock, Hollywood Rock, both amazing. So, yeah, I mean, I'd like to see it. I mean, Steph, do you think it does seem like that's kind of where they want it to go? Whether we get it or not is maybe a different question.
It absolutely must be where they want to go, because telling a family story with someone that has The Rock in their family, you got to think that that's where you want to go. I think The Rock puts him over, and I don't think The Rock acknowledges him as chief in the way that like the Usos have had to. I think he more says like, you've earned my respect from doing that.
Matthew McCoskey's back at it, and he says, does Drew win the title next week? Steph, you say you hope so. Go on.
Yeah. I feel like Drew, I felt Drew was hard done by. I don't see why they took the title off him. Randy Orton does not need a title. Randy Orton's a guy that's engaged in this long distance program with Edge, who's no longer here, and obviously Edge is what Randy Orton's building to. Nobody needs to see Edge and Randy Orton for a title. Randy doesn't need that, and I think he was doing such great work putting the title on him, you know. But yeah, I'd like to see Drew win it back, to be honest.
In all fairness, Edge is probably very close to the timeline of his return. Very close. So whether he gets involved, costs Orton, and then they're off to the races again, that could be one way to do it.
Yeah.
I feel like they've put this match on because we've seen so many title changes just ahead of Survivor Series in the past few years. They think people will buy into it. A short reign for Orton wouldn't hurt him at all. So, yeah, but the only thing that kind of puts me off the idea, not puts me off, but makes me think WWE won't do it, is I don't know if they would give away Drew and Roman. I think they think now that's a much bigger match than it was when they had it at 35. Yeah. And I think they'll want to save that. That's just it's just the, you know, reading into what Triple H said the other week and stuff. I mean, the next time Drew wins the title, I hope there's just a crowd full of hopefully Brits like, you know, Brits. Guys like us, Steph, sorry, who can appreciate a homegrown guy like Drew. So, man, I hope that happens for Drew. Let's get to the last super chat, and not super chat. What am I talking about? Hot take, and I believe this is Jay White related.
Ooh.
Hey, Alex, Wrestling Daily. How's everybody doing today, tonight, or whatever time it may be for when you're watching? My unpopular wrestling opinion is that this man, the Switchblade Jay White, he should have won the G1 Climax, should have faced Sanada, should have won, should have beaten Naito. Because the story's more interesting, and Bullet Club has more of a national appeal.
Abnav coming in with that hot take. A lot of people have had a lot to say about the way they've handled this briefcase stuff in New Japan and whatnot. So do you agree with Abnav, Steph? Would that have just been easier, better even?
You know, the way I felt about the briefcase stuff, I felt totally fine about it until they gave Coda the first Wrestle Kingdom match. So then I was like, okay, well, what did we do all that for? Because with the track record that Jay has, it would have been easy to set up a match between Jay and Naito. He even could literally just say that he earned it during the G1, which he really did. So that was all very weird. The way I think that Jay has to beat Naito at Wrestle Kingdom. Oh no, I actually think he's going to beat Coda. He has to beat Coda at Wrestle Kingdom on day 2 after Coda beats Naito. And he's got to be the double champion. And then we can go into this Bullet Club split storyline that is also definitely on the cards.
Yeah. I'm with you. We do have a lot more super chats to get through before the end of the show. You guys have been great in getting them in tonight, so thank you once again. Bo Hill, good friend of the show, brother. WWE should get rid of all gimmick pay-per-view. Put Money in the Bank back in Mania. Use Hell in a Cell when needed, blood feuds, etc. Extreme Rules isn't extreme. People go through tables every week. Lana, no need for TLC anymore. You've come to the right place, Bo. As you so often do with your good takes. I agree, man. I've said this before on Twitter and whatnot. I feel like the gimmick pay-per-views, they prevent things from building organically. They end up rushing things to get to somewhere, and it's penciled in. It takes away from the excitement of the year, the calendar. Back in, and I hate to be this guy, but back in like 2000 or whatever, you would get every pay-per-view that would feature things like this, and they would make the story relate to that at that time, and you didn't have to just go, we have to stretch this out because Hell in a Cell's in like November or whatever. It was just there, ready to be done. So I'm a big proponent of doing away with that, and I used to love Money in the Bank being at Mania too. So yeah, I would think so. What are you saying, Steph?
Yeah, I 100% agree. There's no need for these gimmick pay-per-views. They just they do just ruin the booking because they're booking a gimmick for the sake of it rather than having it actually be relevant. And Money in the Bank at WrestleMania was awesome, and then you always get the wonder if the person that wins will cash in on the main event, and it builds some good anticipation.
Yeah, I co-sign that opinion. Matty says it's 1-0 Scotland. Matty, neither of I and Steph are going to care too much, but I know you're Scottish, so enjoy it. Enjoy that 1-0, my friend. It's not often it happens for Scotland. Injection 2K says Orton should have taken some time off when Edge got injured because Orton's momentum is lowered and trying to rebuild it, in my opinion. I understand what you're saying, Injection 2K, but if you might forget now, in the months after that, Orton was the hottest he's been in a long time. It's the I think a lot of their decisions have been short term. I don't think they knew, for instance, I don't think all along they were like, okay, we're going to have these matches with Drew and then Hell in a Cell will be when Randy gets it. I don't think that was, I think they did the ambulance match and then they were like, okay, let's carry this on. And they've just made decisions as they've gone, with Keith Lee being put over clean, sandwich in the middle of that. It hasn't been all that well thought out, in my opinion. But I will agree, he's not as hot as he was a few months ago. What do you think, Steph?
Yeah, he's definitely not. And if he's going to end up embroiled in something with the Fiend, that's really going to take all the steam off him as well. He's been so good with the promos and making things real that this Fiend nonsense is just going to dilute him by the time Edge comes back.
Absolutely is. Elizabeth Stallion, another good egg. Good evening, Elizabeth. Lizzie. Dan versus Steph in a Lumis in a shark cage match. I mean, I'd watch it. I mean, Steph's done some training, guys. Don't be fooled.
That's true. I would absolutely take on Dan at any time. I don't know, Lumis.
Hang on, you're gonna take him off?
No, take him off.
That sounds brutal.
Yeah. I don't know if we want Lumis in a shark cage, though. Maybe some kind of stipulation where if Dan wins, Lumis gets to live, but if I win, he's getting on fire.
Whoa! Hang on. Remind me to never scorn Steph Chase. Jesus. George, the good egg himself, says Dark Horse Rumble winner Sonya Deville. Yes,
that would
George.
be amazing. Yeah.
Yes.
I would love that. That would be awesome.
I know Steph and I have both said in the past that we would love that. And when she comes back, knowing what we know now and the performances she put in before she went, she would be red hot, would she not?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say imagine the reaction, but maybe there'll be some fans at the Rumble, though, I think, live fans. So she'd definitely get a pop, and it would be great. She would be a great surprise entrant.
Well, what we got here, we got Tyler who wants to be the special guest ref for Dan versus Steph. And Dan has stepped up to the plate, and he says, well, let's do it.
Awesome. I'm done. I'll sign the contract.
Steph looks like how like serial killers are so relaxed. That's what Steph is reminding me of right now. Look at that.
I'm just taking some inspiration from Dexter Lumis, Dan's favorite wrestler.
Well, this is it. Couldn't we all? Right, guys, that has been a very fantastic show, man. The super chats you guys have put in. I hope we've got through them all. I believe we have. Sorry if some of them took longer than usual, but it's always this show because we're trying to do the NXT and AEW and give them the time that they need. And just, of course, as I say that, Injection 2K has come in with another super chat. And he says, I agree with Steph about the Fiend stuff, and I'm a big fan of the Firefly Funhouse. But Orton should have won at SummerSlam, the rematch at Clash of Champions, and then went on to a new story. What do you think, Steph?
Yeah, I guess. I'm not sure. Honestly,
that's the insight you've got for him. Yeah.
Yeah. Orton's just not someone that I sit down and think about because he's been around for so long that I've had to think about him for so long that I kind of just let him do his thing.
Which he is very good at. He's worth noting. Psycho Orton is my favorite Orton, and his run, I think it was 2009, and the one this year are my two favorites without a doubt. So, but I in good conscience, I can't physically say Drew should have the belt taken off him because I thought Drew was doing a magnificent job in his first reign.
He shouldn't have lost that belt. He really shouldn't have.
Yeah. So there you have it. What I will say is thank you to everyone that has gotten in your super chats tonight and the comments in the side. It's been great fun hanging out with you guys as always. Steph has been here delivering those hot takes you love so much. Steph, where can they find you? Of course, it's in the top hand corner on Twitter, but you do have a YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, I have a YouTube channel, Stephanie Chase Wrestling. Just type that into the bar and you will see me and the Good Brothers most recently, and FTR and lots of other fun stuff like that. And
not that we like to say it, but Akil has noted that, by the way, loved hearing from both of you on the AEW Media Scrum. I thank you, Akil.
Thank you.
And because we do jobs, right? And speaking of which, we both spoke to The Undertaker this week. Steph snuck in at the last minute, the final minute of the interview, and she got in there with a question. But we both have it, right? That's gonna be on your YouTube channel, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm so excited about releasing that.
Yeah, me too. But you'll have to wait till the 20th for that, guys, because it's under embargo, but ahead of Survivor Series. So once again, thank you so much. If you want to catch up on anything, please do on the podcast or here on YouTube. And please make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Wrestle2 on Twitter and YouTube. Be the good eggs I know you are. Steph Chase will see you next Thursday, and myself and the ever salty Louis Dangor will see you tomorrow. Thanks for stopping by, guys.